Hello and welcome to the next lecture in Data Science Toolbox. In the last couple of lessons, we installed R and RStudio. In this lesson, we will familiarize ourselves with the various components and functionality of RStudio. This lesson provides a cheat sheet of the RStudio environment, so head over to the RStudio. So RStudio can be roughly divided into 4 quadrants, each with specific and varied functions, plus a main menu bar. When you first open RStudio, you should see a window that looks roughly like this. Now you may be missing the upper left quadrant and instead have the left side of the screen with just one region, console, like this. If this is the case, go to the file, new file, and then RScript, and now it should more closely resemble the image. You can change the sizes of each of the various quadrants by hovering your mouse over the spaces between the quadrants and click dragging the divider to resize the sections. We will go through each of the regions and describe some of their main functions. It would be impossible to cover everything that RStudio can do, so we urge you to explore RStudio on your own too. You can see the main menu bar runs across the top of your screen and should have 2 rows. The first row should be a fairly standard menu starting with File and Edit. Below that, there is a row of icons that are shortcuts for functions that you will frequently use. To start, let's explore the main sections of the menu bar that you will use. The first being the File menu. Here we can open new or saved files, open new projects or saved projects, save our current document or close RStudio. If you mouse over the new file, a new menu will appear that suggests the various file formats available to you. RScript and R Markdown files are the most common file types for use, but you can also generate R notebooks, web apps, websites, or slide presentations. If you click on any one of these, a new tab in the source quadrant will open. We will spend more time in the future lesson on R Markdown files and their use. Next, we have edit, code, view, plots, and session menu. The session menu has R specific functions in which you can restart, interrupt, or terminate R. These can be helpful if R isn't behaving or is stuck and you want to stop what it is doing and start from scratch. The tools menu is a treasure trove of functions for you to explore. For now, you should know that this is where you can go to install new packages, set up your version control software, and set your options and preferences for how RStudio looks and functions. For now, we will leave this alone, but be sure to explore these menus on your own once you have a bit more experience with RStudio and see what you can change to best suit your preferences. Now this region should look familiar to you. When you opened R, you were presented with the console. This is where you type and execute commands and where the output of said command is displayed. To execute your first command, try typing 1 + 1. Then enter at the prompt. You should see the output 2 below your command. You can also try something advanced in your console. For example, and hit enter. Here I created a matrix with 4 rows and 2 columns with values from 1 to 8. To view this matrix, first look into the environment quadrant. Let me increase the size of this quadrant. Now you can see that we created a matrix with 4 rows and 2 columns. Click anywhere on the example line and a new tab on the source quadrant should appear, showing the matrix you created. Any data frame or matrix that you create in R can be viewed this way in RStudio. RStudio also tells you some information about the object in the environment, like whether it is a list or a data frame, or if it contains numbers, integers, or characters. This is a very helpful information to have, as some functions only work with certain classes of data, and knowing what kind of data you have is the first step to that. In this quadrant, you can see the memory used by our session. Along with this, you can also import your workspace, save your workspace. The quadrant has two other tabs running across the top of it. We will just look at the history tab now. Let me increase the size of it. Your history tab should look something like this. Here you will see the commands that we have run in this session of R. If you click on any one of them, you can click to console or to source, and this will either rerun the command in the console or will move the command to the source respectively. Do so now for your example matrix and send it to the source. The source panel is where you will be spending most of your time in RStudio. This is where you store the R commands that you want to save for later, either as a record of what you did or as a way to rerun the code. We will spend a lot of time in this quadrant when we discuss R Markdown, but for now click the save icon along the top of this quadrant and save the script as your first R script. Don't forget to add .r. Now you will always have a record of creating this matrix. The final region we will look at occupies the bottom right of the RStudio window. Let me increase the size of this quadrant. In this quadrant, 5 tabs run across the top: Files, Plots, Packages, Help, Viewer, and Presentation. In Files, you can see all of the files in your current working directory. If this isn't where you want to save or retrieve files from, you can also change the current working directory in this tab using this ellipsis in the far right and finding the desired folder. You can create a new folder and then setting this new folder as the working directory. In the Plots tab, if you generate a plot with your code, it will appear here. You can use the arrows to navigate to previously generated plots. The zoom function will open the plot in a new window that is much larger than the quadrant. Export is how you save the plot. You can either save it as an image or as a PDF. The cross icon will remove your current plot. The broom icon clears all plots from memories. The Packages tab will be explored more in depth in the next lesson on R packages. Here you can see all the packages you have installed, loaded, and unload these packages and update them. The Help tab is where you find the documentation for your R packages and various functions. In the upper right of this panel, there is a search function for when you have a specific function or package in question. So in this lesson, we took a tour of the RStudio software. We became familiar with the main menu and its various menus. We looked at the console where our code is input and run. We then moved on to the environment panel that lists all the objects that have been created within an R session and allows you to view these objects in a new tab in source. In this same quadrant, there is a history tab that keeps a record of all commands that have been run. It also presents the option to either rerun the command in the console or send the commands to source to be saved. Source is where you save your R commands, and the bottom right quadrant contains a listing of all the files in your working directory, displays generated plots, lists your installed packages, and supplies help files for when you need some assistance. Take some time to explore RStudio on your own. See you in the next lecture.